this is how we built it. We literally just glued this together, glued it all the way down. We held it for like a second. This was like a chalkboard kind of vibe. So this is a little more reflective. Maybe you could find something that wasn't as reflective, but it works perfect. Really cool. Store in my hometown called the Junk Store. And any store like that, these things come up, they pop up. This is actually a divider that we purchased. I'll show you what it looks like pre putting all the acoustic panel on there. But I looked at it and I said, dude, that is an ultimate vocal booth, because the panels have hinges and you're going to actually move it around you. So I was like, dude, that's where it's at. A DIY way of improving your podcasts, improving your recording sessions if you record from your house, and just improving overall frequency response of a vocal. Now, I did I did a mixing video on actually treating your room, and I just headed back from a good friend of mine now that he owns a really nice studio, and we were adjusting his speakers. So when I speak about this, I think from what I do for a living as a mastering engineer, you start to learn and you start to get very intrigued, I did personally, of how absorption works. Why do we want it to be flat in a room? Why do you want a flatter image? And I'm going to explain a little bit about that. I'm also going to talk about a very affordable way to build a vocal shield. If they're done properly, there's a certain distance from the microphone. And there's a reason for that. I'm going to explain two foams we got, and my goal was to keep it in the $140 range, $100 range. How can you build something that's really good and it's going to really do the job, and it can be more than just a vocal isolation from the outside or the reflection points of your voice? The cool thing about foam is with adhesive, that's at any local hardware store, the adhesive is very, very efficient with foam, because the more dense the foam, it's still light. So it has a lot of absorption, but it's very easy to manage. You can get into massive bass trapping and stuff, and it's like really hard to deal with, and you can get into fabrics and stuff. But what foam is really good at, and I wanted to start with the bass trap, because this is what bass traps do. And I want to explain this, and hopefully this helps you guys out there if you're thinking about getting some foam for your room. The thing with a bass trap, and don't make fun of me here, but this is the only way you can really hear it, and if you can start to understand this, as I get closer to this, check, check, check. So as I get closer to it, what I notice about the properties of the bass traps, these are the ones from Sonic Acoustics, the bass trap has a certain property to it. So as I get close to this, these would be really good for a podcast, because they're not taking out, when your vocal range is only from, I would say, 100 hertz maybe to 7, 8, 9, 10, 15K, and you can reproduce those frequencies. But the thing is a bass trap, anything bigger or more dense, its main concern is like the 120 and down. We're talking about when you use a bass trap like this, or any trapping for that matter, is when you put space, when you put air behind the gap, this is why this is so cool. You're actually creating more absorption for the amount of material that you're going to use. So that's why the 4-panel room divider is so cool. So when we're going to use the bass trap, like I said, when I get close to this, what's really cool about these is you can tell it's trapping into the lower register of my voice. And why is that good? So let me explain with the 2-inch panel. So a lot of you guys will come in to a room and you'll see something like this. You like the cosmetics, you're like, dude, that looks sweet for the video, let's put that up all over the place. The problem with this, now watch how my voice, and hopefully you can catch this on the mic, but if I do the same check, check, watch. Check, 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 check. it's grabbing most of the top end of my voice just because of the absorption quality of the 2-inch panel. A lot of people don't know that. So if I have a 20 hertz to a 20K, okay, so like if you look at the frequency response, that's how we measure frequency response, 20 hertz to 20K. That's pretty much the human hearing. As I got closer to this one, this would be my top end. The top end went way down, and the bass and the low mid and the mid stuff stayed the same. So if you have this, where the biggest mistake is made is when somebody buys a ton of 2-inch and they just put it all over the place. What's really good for 2-inch is you can put that and place that 2-inch, 3-inch panel in your first reflection points. If you don't know what that means, you can refer back to my older video. You can refer online to other videos, but first reflection points, that's for mixing. But in this video, I'm talking about vocals. So the first thing is this: we want these kind of traps. You want a 2-inch trap, okay? And the reason being is that's where a lot of the reverb reflects back in a room. So having this to isolate is a very big key. So when you place it on a wall far away from you, you're actually going to stop that reflection from coming back to you. So it's really efficient at that. The human vocal is not going to reproduce sub-frequencies. So 2-inch panels will be perfect for you if you're podcasting, vocal booth, etc. So you can think beyond that. Using 1-inch panel, once again, if you're putting 1-inch all across your room, you're not doing a really good job, because all it's doing is taking high frequencies out of your room, and it's actually going to make your room sound what I would classify dead. It sounds like dull. It doesn't sound flat. So what we're looking to achieve when we build a vocal booth or whatever we're doing, we're looking to flatten the curve. So for example, if you have a little bit of 1-inch and 2-inch panel, and you have maybe some 3-inch panel in the room, they're all doing a little bit of a difference in absorption. And that was in a recent video that I used REW software. I used the computer to analyze the room and see what was going on. So if you want to get sophisticated into that, you can get pretty deep. But in this case, this is a fail-safe way to make an awesome vocal booth. So I grabbed bass traps and 2-inch panels. Now what I wanted to do here, and I'll explain how our vocal booth went together. As I step back from this, if I'm way up here, I'm getting a lot of low mid, the mid range, and I'm hearing the high end being taken out of my voice. But as I check here, it's actually pretty flat. It's taming, it's evening out, and it's stopping the actual echo from happening. So that's the key, as we were talking about with the shield. So we made a shield where it's a little off to the left, little off to the right, you're right. And then I started thinking, okay, well, how could I absorb those low frequencies? So I wanted to figure out, how can I use this space divider with these angles? And behind the space divider, and I don't want to like creep behind here, but I'm going to show you. So in this gap, the space divider is going to mount all the way down here. And I tried it last night while I was doing like a pre-run on this video, and it actually works perfect, because you're actually getting all the absorption. We don't need the scattering. If you look at the front, usually the design's for cosmetics, but it also scatters a little bit. That's like a diffuser. We'll get into that in another video. But when I had this behind, trapping behind here, down this crease, it sounded incredible. So it was working on the lower mids, and then having the space because of the gap of the actual room divider, it was perfect. Like if I was sitting in a mic booth that we spent a lot of money on, it sounded pretty darn good. You know what I mean? So, and I think all said and done, the whole goal was like, could you make like a vocal isolation that could work for more than isolation? And we did. So you could use this for multiple singers. You could use this for your podcasting. You could use this as a room divider that gives you a little bit of sound absorption in your space. You could buy multiples and put them in your corners and just have a really cool looking thing. I mean, I think it looks cool. So if you're really getting into mixing, you may not hear that in your room. And you may say, I don't need stuff like that. But the whole goal in the vocal booth is to stop your reflections, stop your flutter echoes, and produce a very even response. It's really interesting if I move this and push it in, how the actual perception of what I'm hearing changes. If I move the bass traps in more this way, it sounds like the actual low mid sort of decrease. If I move them out, it seems like they come up. So that's what's so cool about this design. Once again, everybody, thanks for watching. This is the main room that we do most of our videos in. I'm a mixing and mastering engineer. If you're watching this and you're not into the, to that side of recording. But yeah, for the podcasters out there, for people that just want to experiment, and I would say the main intent here was acoustics change based on where you place the panels. Having a gobo, like a gobo kind of thing, what they would classify gobo is something you can move around, something you can put in front of an amp, something you can put in front of a vocal, and you can actually move that and also move the mic. When I went to recording school, the first thing that I learned was miking. Like, if I move this mic a little bit closer, I get a different sound. If I move it further back, I get a different sound. We are going to start a recording school, and I want to go back to the basics. I've had a very fortunate time with a few people that I mentor, and I do these videos with, and that I do these classes with, and I try to add information on YouTube. But some of the stuff that I've been teaching has really blessed me as a person, understanding, how many years I've been doing this. The reason for this video is really simple. If you can understand how the acoustics change as you move, if I take a panel, acoustic foam panel, and I move it maybe 5 inches from the wall, it's going to change the way that it absorbs sound. And the thing that led me to the whole entire room divider in the DIY is in a previous video I saw a comment, and it was from a company called Sonic Acoustics. And in that video, I was really appreciative that it was an acoustic company, and I researched and then I started to see that there are foam products, and they were on their Amazon site were selling foam products. I think foam can get sort of a bad rap when it comes to somebody saying, oh, well, you can get these really big, gobo kind of bass traps and stuff. But foam has an absolute place in the recording studio. I have foam all the way across the top of my ceiling because my room needed the 120 to 160 hertz range to be controlled. With that being said, if I would have put those kind of bass traps all over this room, I could have ruined the room. And so there's different panels for different purposes. In the case of what we built, it really does help you as an engineer start to understand how the slightest change in angle, the slightest change in how you're opening up the little contraption that we built, it's going to change the perception of the room. And long story short, that's what this was all about. It's not about, look at me, I got this cool thing, and this is awesome, and you guys should build one too. You can use whatever you find, but the goal here is to be able to make it mobile, because mobility is going to allow you to hear how it changes based on how you move whatever panels you're getting. So my name's Doug Jenkins, imixandmaster.com. If you're continuing to love the videos, you can put in the comments, stuff you want to see. We have some new videos coming out on some conversion. I may do a video. I just actually purchased it. I didn't purchase it. I borrowed a DAT machine, and I'm transferring some vocals tonight, so I got to get going here. But it's funny. This is something I love. This is something I enjoy doing, and I thank you guys from the depths of my heart. I really do, because this has given me a lot of opportunities that I never would have had if it wasn't for you. So thank you, and thanks for watching, and we will talk to you next time. We'll see you. Bye.